How do you rise up from rock bottom? How do you turn that ugly looking scar into something that can shape a better future for you and also impact the lives of others? Well, in today's video, I'll be sharing with you 5 practical things that you can do starting today that will help you to rise up from that fall, that will help you to turn that ugly looking scar into a victory story. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking a lot about growth from the inside out, and then I moved on to talk about scars and how to deal with them. Now, the reason why I moved from growth to scars is because if you choose to pursue growth from the inside out, you should know that you're going to encounter some suffering, some pain, you're going to go through some discomfort and some scarring. I saw a quote that said, "The tiny seed knew that in order to grow, it needed to be dropped in dirt, covered in darkness, and struggle to reach the light." This tells me that scars come with living, scars come with growth. Some people may have been scarred more than others, but the bottom line is that we all have been through one form of challenge or the other. Even I am no stranger to the major life challenges that we face. I've had my fair share of disappointments when it comes to job and career. And just a couple of months ago, my husband and I were here sharing with you some of the challenges in marriage and how we navigated through them. The demands and stress of motherhood, even the pain and hurt that comes from other friendships and relationships, financial challenges. I've experienced those as well. Today, I'll be using one of these experiences as an example as I take us through these 5 steps. And step number 1 is to give yourself permission to grieve. If you're in denial about how that situation makes you feel, you only delay your healing, and it also prevents you from seeing clearly what are the steps to take in order to get out of that situation. Clearly define and accept how you feel about that situation. Right now, I feel betrayed by my business partner, or I feel angry and bitter and resentful towards that person who violated me, or I'm feeling very small and ashamed because I just got fired from my job and I do not have any source of income, or maybe I'm harboring unforgiveness in my heart for that friend or towards that person who wronged me. If we do not clearly define these emotions, it will not be very clear to us what are the steps we should take in order to, deal with them. Now, saying that we should give ourselves the permission to grieve does not mean that we should give ourselves the permission to act based on our negative emotions. As you all can agree, most of the decisions that we take in our down times are usually not the best. And when we act upon them, we usually make the situation worse. Number 2, honestly analyze the situation. And I know this is not easy. Nobody wants to dwell on a painful past experience, but we must be willing to stay there at least long enough to understand how and where things went wrong. Ask yourself what really happened and be honest about it. How did it happen? Why did it happen? What are the factors that made it easy for me to make this mistake or for this person to make their mistake on me? It is when we ask these questions and seek honest answers that we are able to get a clearer picture of the whole situation. And then we are able to take the right steps towards giving purpose to our pain. Let me share with you one of my experiences with failure and how honestly analyzing the situation helped me to bounce back from that failure and also set the stage for how I now began to see negative situations and react to them in a positive way. A couple of years ago, when I just got into the US from my home country, Cameroon, I was following up some paperwork to see that my BSN degree, which I had obtained in my country, was endorsed or evaluated, and I was approved to write the board exam so I could obtain my license to practice here in the US. Now the process took way longer than I had expected. I encountered some challenges on the way, some unexpected delays, and this really got me impatient, even angry. I had some why questions going on. But cutting the long story short, after all this delay, they finally approved me, right? And they say, "Oh, good, you're good to go. You don't need to take any other courses. Just go ahead, write your board exams and obtain your license." I was so excited. I was tired of the long wait, so I just rushed and I wrote that exam. And of course, I failed. I was shocked, disappointed. I was ashamed. I was like, how do I tell my friends, my family that I didn't make it in this exam? I felt guilty at times, like there was something I should have done that I did not do, and I brought this upon myself. I was even angry at other times, like this is just unfair. I studied. I even helped other people during the study time for this examination, and this may not be a big deal for you, but I think nursing students out there watching me right now know what I'm talking about. And also for me, even though I faced some challenges during my final year in college, my academic life to a certain extent had been, smooth sailing. So this was like a big blow on my ego. Now I can clearly list out these emotions to you, but back then that was not the case. I tried to be in denial. I tried to take a band-aid and put over all these emotions that I was feeling, right? And look for things to console myself. Things like, well, NCLEX is a tough exam. Everybody knows that. I'm not the first person to fail. Many students are struggling out there. How many of us you would usually find, those type of stories to console ourselves instead of looking for ones that would inspire us and challenge us to push ourselves out of that pit and soar to higher heights? That's exactly what I was doing then. This denial did not help me. It only led to temporal consolation. A lot of low moments, discouragement, self-pity, self-doubt started to step in, and I said, no, I have to do something about this. I have to analyze the situation and figure out how I can get myself out of this situation, obtain my license, and move on. When I began to analyze the situation, two things stood out to me. One, I was overconfident in my knowledge of nursing that I overlooked the importance of, paying attention to the test-taking strategy. Another thing that stood out to me was that my timing was wrong. How many of us know people who succeed because they were at the right time, at the right place at the right time, and also fail because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time? I think that was the situation here for me. I took the test at the time that I was overbooked. I had a little one in hand, just so many things that were keeping me unstable, and it was just not the best time. And so because I took time and analyzed the situation, saw the picture, it helped me out. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have an answer or a why to every bad experience that you have been through. There are things I've been through that I can see where I went wrong. Others I know very well I did nothing wrong, but then somebody wronged me, and those are the ones that can build anger and resentment. And there are other things that I can't blame anybody, nor can I blame myself. I have no clue or explanation as to why they happened, and that's okay. The reason why I'm saying we should not shove our experiences under the bed, but rather take some time to reflect over them, is so that you can discover what the root cause is, if there is one. If you keep having financial challenges and then you decide to go do seminars, one financial seminar to another, meanwhile the problem or the reason why you keep spending money that you do not have is because you have a void inside of you that you're trying to fill with material possession, then those financial seminars will not help you. It means that you need to go get some help on how to deal with, that void or that emptiness that you feel inside. And when you deal with that situation, then you must have started solving your financial problem from its roots. So this brings us to step number 3, which is my second most important step. I'm yet to come to my most important step. But step number 3 is to figure out what lessons you have learned from this experience. Somebody said it's not just the pain that people hate, but pain without a purpose. I've told you a little bit about my 3 C-sections, right? I actually signed up for that pain. That is the pain I signed up for. Why? Because there was a purpose. I needed to get my babies out. I needed to get my babies home. But if somebody just came and kicked me so hard in the stomach and got me scarred, it will build anger and resentment because, why am I going through this pain? There is no purpose for that pain. God has a way of using the challenges we go through to shape and mold us. We learn some valuable lessons. We develop some amazing skills. The Bible tells us that all that suffering brings perseverance, brings us to that place of maturity where we are lacking nothing. And it's not lacking nothing as in material possessions, but us having the necessary skills and tools that we need to pursue our purpose in life. So you have to ask yourself these 2 questions. What have I learned and what have I become after this experience? For me, after that failure, I definitely learned the power of right timing. I learned how to take responsibility for my mistakes and stop giving excuses and blaming others. I learned patience. After all that delay, I had to learn patience, and it was not a one-time learning. Over the years, with more delays and more ups and downs, I continued to grow in that spirit of patience. I learned humility. Not that I was a prideful person, but when I finally got that license, I was not boastful. I was thankful. I was super thankful. And above all, I learned to trust God. I came to the understanding that He was my source and not those things, and he can use any means to provide for me. Asking yourself that second question of what have I become after this experience is also very important, because the things we go through has a way of beautifully shaping us, but they can also negatively affect our personalities in a way that hinders growth. Has your experience stripped you of your confidence as a parent, a businessman, a wife, a husband, or are you a big people pleaser now because of all your past rejection? Do you have trust issues and find it difficult to make friends because of all the betrayals? Are you a perfectionist because for you approval only came from perfect results? If you're going to rise up from rock bottom, it's important that you ask these honest questions, because realizing these newfound strengths, these lessons you have learned, and also knowing these weaknesses is already growth in itself. Now, number 4, which is my favorite, is to apply your newfound wisdom. Many times we say, oh, I've learned my lesson, but then we just sit there and feel sorry for ourselves and do nothing about it. It is until you take these lessons that you have learned and start to apply it that you would prevent that situation from happening to you again, or you would use that story to help somebody else. And I understand that many times we know up here that we have to do something to get out of this rock bottom, but we are just so broken by the pain of these circumstances that we kind of just resign or feel like, you know what, I just want to sit here and do nothing. And this is where I think for me motivation comes in. And what always motivates me when I find myself in this kind of place where I'm almost resigning is that I look two ways. I look at, the best that can happen when I finally get out of this rock bottom, and I also look at the worst that can happen if I stay down here. When I look at those two extremes, it always helps me, motivates me to push myself to do something, so I can gradually climb out of this pit. And we all know that motivation alone will not help, and so you need a plan, long-term plan, short-term plan. You need a plan. What is the way forward after this business failure? What is the way forward after this marriage problem? What is the next phase after this loss and grief? Please let your short-term goals address your immediate stressors. If you do not address what is stressing you right now and immediate, addressing it from its roots, there is no way that you would have that peace of mind, that calm and that right mind to think clearly, to push through with the long-term goals. And I know many times we just want to leap right with one step out of that rock bottom. Know that it's going to be you taking one baby step at a time, but trust me, with each step it's going to become clearer and clearer for you. And finally, seek to grow in your knowledge and understanding of God, so that you'll be able to soar out of that pit and do exploits, because the Bible tells us that they that know their God, they shall be strong and they shall do mighty exploits. When you know the God that you serve and you know who you are in Him, then you will not go around, you'll not be stressed out trying to fix your life in your own power and in your own might, which you will always fail. You will rely, you will depend on Him, because He is able and He is willing to help you. Just like He did in the case of Daniel, He can save you from the lion's den. No matter how stinky your situation is, He can resurrect it, like in the case of Lazarus. He is able to deliver you from that situation of bondage, even as He did with the children of Israel. When you know your God and you know His character and you know how He sees you, you will depend and rely on Him to help you rise up from that rock bottom. So please, with God's help and His guidance, go through these steps. Allow Him to use you for exploits. And when I say exploits, do not be thinking about these big mega things. Allow Him to start using you in your everyday life, starting from your home, your job, the grocery store, your neighborhood. Let God use you, your story and your experience to bless the person that's sitting right next to you. That is how you begin to give purpose to your pain. That is how you turn that ugly scar into a victory story. That is how you rise up from rock bottom.